Hello, this is Scotland at 7. You may feel as if you're having deja vu because the first story, as it was last night, is Brexit once more. It's emerged today that the EU will set an EU Council meeting on the 21st of March as the deadline for either the UK Parliament to agree to a Brexit deal or to submit a request to extend Article 50 if a hard Brexit is to be avoided. In a statement to Parliament, Prime Minister Theresa May said that she would be bringing a motion to Parliament tomorrow which will propose, now you have to listen to this quite carefully because there's a lot of it, there will be a second meaningful vote on Tuesday, 12th of March at the latest.
As I committed to the House, the government will
I'm
today
sorry,
table
we've got an
amendable
alarm
motion
going
for
off.
debate.
I'm terribly sorry. We've got an alarm going off in the building. I think it's a burglar alarm for one of the other businesses that operate from this place. So it's disturbing everybody but us, I think, because I don't think anybody else can hear it on out in the television land. So let's get back to the beginning of this story. It's Brexit, as it was yesterday, and the EU have set the date of the EU Council meeting on the 21st of March as the deadline whereby the UK Parliament must agree a Brexit deal or request an Article 50 extension, if that's going to be the thing that makes Brexit to be avoided. In a statement to Parliament, Prime Minister Theresa May said that she would be bringing a motion to Parliament tomorrow which would propose, now there's three parts of this, and if you want to really grab it, you'll have to listen quite carefully. So on the second meaningful vote, which will be on the agreement that she has already put before Parliament, that will take place on Tuesday the 12th of March at the latest. Now, if the government does not win support for that deal on the 12th of March, there'll be another vote on a no-deal Brexit on the 13th of March. So the Parliament could decide whether they want or do not want a no-deal Brexit. The third part of this is if the House of Commons, having rejected any Brexit deal votes to prevent a no-deal Brexit, there will be a vote on the 14th of March to request an extension to Article 50. Yeah, you need a little beat.
As I committed to the House, the government will today table an amendable motion for debate tomorrow. But I know members across the House are genuinely worried that time is running out, that if the government doesn't come back with a further meaningful vote, or it loses that vote, Parliament won't have time to make its voice heard on the next steps. I know too that members across the House are deeply concerned by the effect of the current uncertainty on businesses. So today I want to reassure the House by making three further commitments. First, we will hold a second meaningful vote by Tuesday the 12th of March at the latest. Second, if the government has not won a meaningful vote by Tuesday the 12th of March, then it will, in addition to its obligations to table a neutral amendable motion under Section 13 of the EU Withdrawal Act, table a motion to be voted on by Wednesday the 13th of March at the latest, asking this House if it supports leaving the EU without a withdrawal agreement and a framework for a future relationship on the 29th of March. So the United Kingdom will only leave without a deal on the 29th of March if there is explicit consent in the House for that outcome. Third, if the House, having rejected leaving with the deal negotiated with the EU, then rejects leaving on the 29th of March without a withdrawal agreement and future framework, the government will, on the 14th of March, bring forward a motion on whether Parliament wants to seek a short, limited extension to Article 50. And if the House votes for an extension, seek to agree that extension approved by the House with the EU and bring forward the necessary legislation to change the exit date commensurate with that extension. These commitments all fit the timescale set out in the Private Members Bill in the name of the Right Honourable Member for Normanton, Pontefract and Castleford. They are commitments I am making as Prime Minister, and I will stick by them as I have previous commitments. As I have previous commitments to make statements and table amendable motions by specific date.
Well, in his response to the Prime Minister's statement, the SNP group leader in Westminster, Ian Blackford, welcomed the proposal to extend Article 50 and said that the SNP were already selecting candidates for the EU elections in May. He went on to say that the Parliament must now take control by voting against Theresa May's bad deal, rule out no deal, extend Article 50 and allow time to hold a second referendum which has the option of remaining in the EU on the ballot paper.
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Prime Minister for advance sight of her statement. I have to say I find myself once again agreeing with the Right Honourable Member for Rushcliffe. There is perhaps the possibility that we extend Article 50 beyond the end of June, and in that light can I give a helpful suggestion to the Prime Minister. The Scottish National Party are already putting in place candidates for the European elections. Can I suggest the Conservatives might consider doing the same? Mr. Speaker, there are only 19 parliamentary days until Brexit Day, yet the Prime Minister wants...
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Prime Minister for advance sight of her statement. I have to say I find myself once again agreeing with the Right Honourable Member for Rushcliffe. There is perhaps the possibility that we extend Article 50 beyond the end of June, and in that light can I give a helpful suggestion to the Prime Minister. The Scottish National Party are already putting in place candidates for the European elections. Can I suggest the Conservatives might consider doing the same? Mr. Speaker, there are only 19 parliamentary days until Brexit Day, yet the Prime Minister wants to delay the meaningful vote up to the 12th of March. Why? The 12th of March, only 10 parliamentary days before Brexit. We have lost 9 days when this issue could have been resolved. The Dutch Prime Minister says we are sleepwalking into a no-deal scenario. There was no breakthrough in a 45-minute meeting with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Council President Donald Tusk said an Article 50 extension would be the rational decision. Although, Mr. Speaker, that would suggest that this government is capable of making rational decisions. There is little evidence of that. Prime Minister, your strategy to run down the clock is disastrous. Isn't it the case that you continue to fail to reach an agreement on the backstop? Isn't it the case that you cannot get the alternative arrangements on the backstop you promised at the end of January?
I'm not trying to get any alternatives to a backstop. Through the chair, man. Mr. Blackford.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it the case that the government cannot get alternative arrangements on the backstop that were promised at the end of January because the EU will not renegotiate? The EU has repeatedly made it clear the withdrawal agreement is non-negotiable. What is it that the Prime Minister does not get of that? Prime Minister, businesses and citizens are worried about no deal, worried about the supply of medicines, worried about the supply of food. It is the height of irresponsibility for any government to threaten its citizens with these consequences. And you know, the Prime Minister sits and laughs at what she's doing to the people of the United Kingdom. What a disgrace. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister indicates she simply is not fit for office. Prime Minister, will you accept the overwhelming advice of business, of MPs and your Cabinet? Rule out no deal, extend Article 50, but do it today. This should not be left until the middle of March. Mr. Speaker, we can't trust this Prime Minister. Parliament should take the opportunity to impose the timeline that she has set out today, so that the Prime Minister can't dodge this.
Well, sorry about the little glitch in the video then, but it was nice to see Ian Blackford twice. The proceedings went on with the Labour MP, Jess Phillips, And she made an absolutely impassioned plea for the Prime Minister to do the right thing and vote herself against a no deal.
Ian Blackford. Yeah. Jess Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I feel so enraged this week with the complete and utter lack of bravery to do the right thing for our country. And maybe it's because I spent my week in my constituency trying to put out the burning injustices that the Prime Minister's government has started where I live. I will not sit one more day and listen to her crow about employment going up where I live. Employment is falling and hunger is rising. I have one midwife for the entirety of my constituency currently. There are people in my constituency living in hotels and they have to move out because Crufts is coming to Birmingham. Will the Prime Minister do a brave thing and do once what is best for the country, not what is best for any of us? Do what is best for the country. Will she be brave and at least answer the question of my colleague, is will she at least vote herself against no deal?
SNP MP for Glasgow South, Stuart Malcolm MacDonald, asked the Prime Minister why she has not set up a judge-led inquiry, independent inquiry, into the industrial-scale fraud by the Leave campaigns to determine whether she is proceeding on the basis of a fraudulent campaign and a fraudulent result.
Stuart Malcolm MacDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the Culture Committee released a report, backed unanimously by its members, on the issue of disinformation, particularly in relation to electoral campaigns. Given the release of that report and the questions that surround the Leave campaigns, some of which amount to fraud on an industrial scale, before she proceeds any further, why hasn't she set up a judge-led public inquiry with the power to summon evidence and witnesses to determine whether she is proceeding on the basis of a fraudulent campaign and a fraudulent result?
Yeah. Now, here's an item that's very interesting, I think. I certainly carry in my wallet a little card that says that if I am in an accident or I die, they can use any bits of me that may be useful to somebody else. Now, of course, this is not something that everybody wants to get involved with, but the Scottish Government have made what some people might call a radical step forward in changing the way this is done. Now, I've opted in to give my organs if I'm no longer here. But what the government has done now with Joe Fitzpatrick's bill, he's the health minister, of course, he's made it so that everybody is in the scheme for giving their organs as donations. Now, the MSPs voted 107 to 1 to progress this bill to the next stage. Now, only a very small percentage of the population die in circumstances that enable organ donation. These people, normally their death occurs in an intensive care unit, in a hospital. So it's a very small minority of people who are really actually eligible to give their organs away. But when these things happen, there are some very, very grateful people who get a new lease of life. And fortunately today we've got a lady called Lisa Hartwig, and she was given a lung transplant as the result of cystic fibrosis in 2016. And here she is with me now via the technology of modern day computing. Lisa, it's nice to see you, nice to meet you. Thank you very much for giving your time to tell the people about, maybe you could just describe a little bit about cystic fibrosis for those people who may not understand what it's about.
Cystic fibrosis is a genetic condition that you're born with, and it's a faulty gene that's passed on from both parents. People in the UK, 1 in 25 people carry the faulty gene. There's now a test that's done when babies are born to find out if they've got CF, which is cystic fibrosis for short. That way, proper medical intervention can happen, and hopefully their life can be prolonged. Currently, the average life expectancy is around 37 years old. I'm 28 at the moment, but my lungs deteriorated quite quickly. My lung function was around 13% before my transplant, and now I'm currently sitting about 81%. So I'm breathing a way I've never been able to breathe before, thanks to organ donation.
How miraculous. That's absolutely astonishing. How long did you actually have to wait until there was a suitable donor? Because, it's not everybody who can give their lungs to you, is it? I suppose I don't know if there's a problem with the size of people, but it's certainly a problem with rejection of various organs. If you got to have a proper tissue type, is that the correct thing?
That's correct. I waited 3.5 years on my lungs, which is a considerably lengthy time, and the health professionals kept saying, we are running out of time to get you a donor because you can't become too unwell, because then it's likely you won't survive the operation. But you have to have your tissue type has to match, your size and your blood type. So that can make the match even more difficult. And I'm only 4'11" and a half, so again, I'm quite small, so the chances are of someone's small lungs coming up are quite short. But in the 3.5 years that I did wait, I got 2 false calls, which meant I went down and to Newcastle was where I got my transplant. The surgeons then looked at the potential donor organs and found that both times they had emphysema, so it wasn't safe enough to then give those lungs to me. So I just got sent home and continued to wait on a possible match coming up again.
And how was your life actually affected when you had the cystic fibrosis? I mean, were you totally disabled? Could you do anything? Could you run? Could you do sports? Or were you in a wheelchair? What was the situation for you?
So, growing up, would spend 2 weeks at a time in hospital receiving intravenous antibiotics to fight a lot of chest infections that I had. Things like going up the stairs at school and PE. I didn't really do things like that, didn't run. But then prior to going on the waiting list and whilst on the waiting list, I was on oxygen 24/7. I had to sleep with a ventilator mask, like a huge face mask on at night that kind of done the breathing for me. I was wheelchair bound or bed bound. It was either one or the other. My mum was my carer. I would need help with getting dressed, making my meals in the shower. So I was quite dependent on other people, but I still tried to live as a normal 22, 23-year-old would. But it was difficult.
And so what is your opinion of this new bill that Joe's put forward to the Holyrood Parliament?
It feels like it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad that the Scottish Parliament have been listening to people and see that the potential that this has for people to not wait as long as I did, 3.5 years. I do a lot of public speaking, and people ask me, well, why are you talking about it when you're all what seems like healthy now? And I say, because I know there is hundreds of people in Scotland that are living that life that I did for 3.5 years, just waiting on the phone ringing. And it is, people sometimes can't wait for the weekend. Trying to wait on a life-saving organ was really difficult, not only on me, but on my family and friends. So the way I look at it is, I've had this transplant that saved my life, but it's also saved my friends and family's life, because they've still got me at the end of the day. So I'm hoping in turn this new opt-out system will do exactly that. Will give people and their families the life back that they actually deserve.
And as your life is now, are you able to run your life completely as most other people would? I mean, obviously we have to take into account that not everybody is able to walk and run and jump and do these things, because everybody has their different ailments. And but are you able to walk down the road, run down the road, catch the bus, and do these kind of things that many people would consider normal?
Normal, yeah. Things that I'd long to do, like take my nephew out for a day out, which I'm able to do now, where before, if I was in a wheelchair and on oxygen, those things were never possible. I still have to go to Newcastle for regular clinic appointments just to make sure that my body isn't rejecting the lungs. And I still take a lot of medication and have to be monitored quite frequently. But I would say I'm living a fairly normal life for someone my age.
And so you have a job and you work?
Yeah, I'm currently a support worker, which I love.
Who do you support?
Because so many people have helped me over the years. I'm getting a lot of satisfaction out of being able to help other people.
And who is it that you support?
I mainly support adults with autism.
All right. So you're really very, very much into giving back to the community. And you're also promoting this idea around and giving people talks and telling people what it's all about.
Yeah, I do regular talks in places like groups or schools, colleges, just to kind of raise awareness, and not enough people are speaking about organ donation unless maybe they know someone who's been waiting or who's had a transplant. So this opt-out situation now means that people are more likely to have this discussion within their family. As long as they share their wishes with their family, then that's the best thing that I can ask for.
Well, it's been absolutely fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much for giving us your time, and I wish you every good health that you can possibly have for the rest of your days. Thank you, Lisa, very much.
Thanks.
Now we turn to the other side of the world, and one of these troublesome kind of stories, and it's another one that rocks the Roman Catholic Church. The most senior Catholic cardinal in Australia has been found guilty of child sex abuse. The jury unanimously found Cardinal George Pell guilty on 5 charges last December, but this was not. Nobody was able to report this because there was another case and there was a suppression order, and that's just been lifted now because the other case has been dropped. Now, the offences that were involved in were a long time ago, in 1996 and 1997. Now, 2 days after the verdict was removed from, 2 days after this verdict, the cardinal was removed from Pope Francis's Council of Advisors. The cardinal is likely to be imprisoned and may be taken into custody at a plea hearing tomorrow. His senior solicitor has said that Cardinal Pell maintains his innocence and he will appeal this judgment. One of the victims said that he never came forward as he had a scholarship, and one of the conditions of the scholarship was that he was a member of the church choir. He said that Pell was a powerful guy with a lot of connections, and he had struggled with what had happened to him for a long time. And now we move up from Australia to India, and the continuing dispute between Pakistan and India. There was a war, you may remember, or you may have heard, back in 1971 over this disputed Kashmir region. Now, Pakistan said that Indian fighter jets made it to just 4 miles in the Pakistani territory on Tuesday morning before being rebuffed. They then dropped their payloads and there was no damage or injuries. However, the Indian Foreign Secretary, Vijay Gokhale, said there was intelligence that a militant group which staged a suicide bombing which killed 40 Indian security personnel, were preparing to strike again. He added, in fact, of imminent danger of a preemptive strike, and so this became absolutely necessary. So back home to Scotland, and our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has announced funding for female entrepreneurs. The Scottish Chamber of Commerce has partnered with the Scottish Association of Businesswomen to deliver the Future Female Business Leaders Programme, which will offer women help as they move into managerial roles. Health now, and the NHS waiting times. Health Secretary Jean Friedman has said that the latest NHS waiting time statistics were not good enough. 72% of patients were seen within the 12-week patient guarantee, which is down from 80% on the same time last year. The Scottish Government is addressing this by continual implement of £850 million to improve the plan. And a part of this is 27 million, which will increase the workforce by buying new equipment and to run clinics at weekends. Meanwhile, another improvement has been for the IVF treatment. Referrals have exceeded the last 3 years, and in the last 18 months, all eligible patients have started treatment within a year of referral. Health Minister Joe Fitzpatrick said Scotland continues to lead the way in provision of NHS IVF treatment. And we want to make access to treatment on the NHS as fair as possible, giving more people the opportunity to conceive. We now move to school leavers, and a record high number of school leavers went on to positive destinations, including employment, training and further education within the 3 months of leaving school last year. Statistics also show that more teenagers are remaining in school, with nearly 2/3 completing 6-year education. The gap between those from the most and least deprived communities achieving positive destination has halved since 2009-10, with an increase in both areas. Deputy First Minister John Swinney said the statistics are real-world progress in tackling an age-old problem. And now over the Atlantic to America, and Mr. Trump's former campaign chair, which is a man who was named Paul Manford. He's appealed for leniency because he's faced with spending the rest of his life in jail. His attorney said that he's merely a wealthy consultant who committed garden variety crimes. The 69-year-old Montfort faces up to 5 years in jail on each of 2 felony charges, as well as 19 years on a separate charge of bank fraud. In Iran, the former foreign minister, Mohammad Javad Zarif, has warned that fighting between the parties and factions in the country is a deadly poison. Zarif resigned on Monday, and the interview with a newspaper there was thought to have taken place before then. The president is yet to accept the resignation. Zarif says the US President Donald Trump is to blame for the US withdrawal from the nuclear deal rather than the Iranian president. Now, a story that we dealt with a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the beginning of the Catalan trials. And of course, they're proceeding, and the former Speaker of the Catalan Parliament, Carme Forcadell, took the stand as the third week of the trials got underway. She is standing trial, accused of rebellion as she facilitated the debate in the Catalan independence, on Catalan independence while in the parliament. Carme said that she would not allow censorship in the parliament and that only the limit of freedom of speech in respect of human rights. A former presiding officer of the Scottish Parliament, Tricia Marwick, has lent her support to Ms Fossadell, saying it was her duty to make sure that the voices of Parliament elected by the people are held, and that this is what she has done. Also taking the stand today was an activist who was charged with rebellion. His name was Jordi Cuixart. The charge of rebellion, a big charge in Spain. He said democratic values are above the rule of law. It is an obligation for citizens to defend them. Catalan President Quim Torra was in the court watching the proceedings. Opposition leader Ines Armendez said everyone knows that Mr. Torra was not here to manage or direct Catalonia, nor to lead the government, but is instead here as the ringleader for the secessionist CDR. And now football, and the Celtic team are interested now because it's about their manager, Brendan Rodgers. It's been confirmed that he will now join Leicester City football team down in England. It's a shock move and comes as the Celtic chase an unprecedented treble. Rodgers will replace the sacked Claude Puel at the mid-Premiership team. It is believed that the Celtic player and manager Neil Lennon will take over at Celtic after leaving Hibs earlier this year. Both are thought to be close to agreeing terms with Leicester and Celtic, respectively. So if you're a football fan, that one was for you. And I think we've just about come to the end. Quite a lot of stories, and I hope that you've been interested, and I hope that our technical glitches haven't come too much in the way of your enjoyment of the programme. It is quite a lot of work here, and there's a few of us, but we're trying our best to bring you the best. So we'll look forward to seeing you again, hopefully tomorrow. Bye-bye.